Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the forum hosted by the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, being recorded by Stevens Point Student Television here at UWSP. I'm Florence Anderson, and I will serve as a moderator for this event. Before we get started into candidate discussions, we have a presentation from the Pointers Vote Coalition.
I just wanted to say thanks to UWSP for having us. I'm the social media coordinator for a very new student organization we have on campus. We are a non-partisan civic engagement organization on campus, and we're here to try and make voting for college students more accessible and to educate college students on their voting rights. And today I'm just going to give you guys a really short presentation about how to register to vote. So before I do that, how many people here are already registered? Hands up. Awesome. Well, that makes it easy for me, but I hope that you can maybe take at least one thing away to maybe share with your friends and families that maybe aren't registered to vote and need to be. So first up, how do I register to vote? This is also geared towards student questions. If maybe you guys have students here on campus, there's some useful info there too. You have a couple options. You can register to vote online or through mail-in delivery. There's a really good resource on here, even if you are already registered, and it's myvote.wi.gov, and there's a lot of information on there from registering to vote to what's on your ballot to where do you vote. So it's just a really great resource, even if you are already registered. To vote by mail or online, you do need to either postmark it 20 days in advance. So unfortunately for this upcoming election, the deadline has passed, but good to know for the future. And there's also always the option to deliver it by hand to the municipal clerk. What else? Oh. And then the two big things to remember, of course, what you need to register to vote is a valid ID, which if you live in Wisconsin is easy. It's just a Wisconsin driver's license or a state ID. And then some kind of proof of residence, and that can be a utility bill or anything that has your current address on it. And then if you are a procrastinator like myself, you can also vote or register to vote on election day at the polling place. And the election judges are always really helpful with things like that. So you would just need to bring that photo ID and proof of residence, and they'll help you get registered there. And then this is more for students. If you're living on campus and you're like me and you're an out-of-state student, you definitely can still vote in Wisconsin elections. Not many students know about the point card office. They'll make you a voter ID because unfortunately here we can't use our student IDs to vote. But yeah, it's a really great resource, and the last time I was in there, one of the ladies made a remark that they hadn't printed out a voter ID in a long time, so I'm sure that we need some more out-of-state students voting around here. But I believe that's all I had. Oh yeah, and then why should you vote? I'm sure everybody here is well known to the importance of voting, but if you ever need help convincing anybody that's experiencing voter apathy, which maybe we all do from time to time, just a couple reasons that empower specifically us at the Pointers Vote Coalition to vote. It's that these elections affect us directly, for starters, especially these local elections. The statistic here we found was that last year only 7% of the eligible voting population actually voted in the Wisconsin primaries. And that number is much smaller for college students. So if even 100 or 200 students or community members went out to vote, you could change the entire course of an election. And then finally, it's our right to vote, and people have been fighting for that right for many years and years, and I think that if we have that opportunity to exercise that right, we definitely should. Yeah, thank you guys for listening, and if you have any questions, there'll be a little booth back there, and if you're not registered today, I can also help you do that today. Or if you just want some candy or pens, I'll be back there too. Thank you.
Thank you again to the Pointers Vote Coalition. That was a great presentation. So today we'll be hearing from candidates running in the local election on Tuesday, this coming April 5th, which is a Tuesday. This includes candidates running for county executive, county board, city council, and the Stevens Point area school boards. Tonight's event serves to provide voter information through candidates sharing their views on issues of concern to the Portage County residents, which includes this campus and the community here. We will be starting with county executive, and the only candidate here is Eric Olson. So hi, you can come on up, grab a mic, and I will read the rules once you get situated. As you get situated, I will read the rules for the candidates for tonight. I will repeat these with each new set of candidates. In order to provide the most time to hear from candidates and to provide a fair and equal opportunity to answer questions important to you in this community, I will review the format, time, and terms for this forum. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves and make an opening statement. From there, they will have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. They will have 1 minute to make a closing statement at the end. I will repeat the question when requested. Candidates will respond to some questions submitted by the Candidates will respond to questions submitted by the Gender and Sexuality Alliance. My apologies. The timer is located in the front of the audience tables. Will indicate how much time you have left. A green will indicate when time starts. A yellow folder indicates 30 seconds remaining, and red means your time has expired. Candidates may finish their sentence, but then please stop so we can move on to the next candidate. Candidates are asked to keep their remarks germane to the question and fair to the participants. Audience members are requested to respect the candidates' times and responses, and are also requested to turn off any sound-making devices. The moderator reserves the right to interrupt to ensure these ground rules are observed. The order of response to each question will be rotated each question. The order of the opening statements will be chosen by a random drawing, drawing the candidate's name out of this container. Do we have a container? Sorry, they will just be done in order as they are seated. If that's all right, Sarah? Yeah. Okay. We will now begin with a 1.5 opening statement by each candidate. Candidate Olson, whenever you are ready.
Okay. Is this working? Everyone can hear me? All right. Well, I first want to thank you all, the students who are putting this together. I know because I taught classes on this campus for 6 years and I was an advisor to student organizations that it is always hard to put events together, but I always applaud people who take the time and put the effort into making things happen because you're part of what makes a community vibrant. Why am I running for office? I moved to Stevens Point in 2004, and like a lot of people I think who moved to campus for a campus job or moved to Stevens Point for a campus job, I didn't know how long I was going to stay here. But what happens to a lot of people is that you start to set roots in this community and you start to fall in love with the entire community. You start to realize that this is a unique and special place in Wisconsin. I moved to Wisconsin in 1997 to study local government, and I guess in many ways I never stopped. I started to get a master's degree in urban and regional planning, and I did that. I started a PhD in urban and regional planning. I didn't complete that, but I was able to teach on campus for 6 years. I taught land use planning courses and community development courses. And for the last 12 years, I've worked with counties and local governments statewide to try to advance protection of our lakes and rivers. I saw the county executive opportunity coming up this spring as a way for me to just take my giving back to the community to another level. I believe in community service, and I'm excited at the prospect of being able to work with the county staff, to work alongside the county board, and with other people to really move this county forward on a number of issues. Probably one of the biggest issues is going to be groundwater. Our groundwater resource is precious, and it also, once it's damaged, it's hard to get it back. So it is vulnerable. And we need to take proactive measures as a county government to limit the amount of pollution getting into our groundwater and try and ensure a sustainable, perpetual groundwater resource for everyone to enjoy, really for centuries to come. And so I want to be a part of a proactive county government that engages around groundwater issues. And I'm not sure if I had a minute and a half, is that right?
I do believe you did. I believe that was exceeded, but that's all right. We will try to be a little more careful with the time this time, yes. The card rule will be upheld for the rest of the questions, though. So the first question is, how can the county prepare for and mitigate climate change?
Sure, and that's a great question. Climate change is happening, it's real. I'm not part of the section of society that would deny it, and I think it is becoming an increasingly major crisis for us. County government has at least a couple of roles to play. One of it is that much of the warming and the weather changes that we're going to be experiencing are sort of already set. There isn't much we can do about it, and that's unfortunate, but it means that we have to prepare. We have to put in place mitigation measures. We have to start thinking about stormwater planning and where, when we get like a 4 or 5 inch rain event, where's that water going to go? How do we protect critical infrastructure? How do we protect people's homes and their investments? And the county plays a major role in that. Another thing that we're going to be doing as a county, though, is trying to be part of the solution. It's really unfortunate that this county, being where we have the Midwest Renewable Energy Association headquartered, being where we have Midstate and the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, the county government itself has not embraced solar energy technologies. These technologies have become so cost effective now that they may provide basically the least cost source of electricity, and they do it without adding greenhouse gases to the climate. So why are we not doing this? It's really frustrating, and I see that as something that I'll be able to take action on, ideally right away in my first year in office. We'll start putting solar panels up on county-owned facilities.
Thank you. Why should local elections matter to students here at UWSP?
Sure. I remember being a student and that it wasn't always easy to make the connections. I went to my undergraduate at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities, and thinking about who's the mayor of the Twin Cities. Of course, that has all maybe been brought to people's attention, that who's in leadership matters if you think about what's happened in the Twin Cities over the last 2 years. So bring that back home to Portage County. The leadership in your community matters. You can have leaders that are progressive, that are working to make this a sustainable and desirable community for people to live in, and you can have leaders that basically show up and demonstrate leadership by participating in things, by coming to campus. In fact, I can't believe that there aren't better connections right now between the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point and our Portage County government. So how do we create more opportunities for students to work as part-time jobs in the county, for students to get exposure through internships to different experiences with the county? I think I'm going to be a person who's going to be in a great position to make that happen. The other reason that you should matter is sort of practical. If you live in a rental unit on or around the Stevens Point campus, you're paying county property taxes. It's built into your rent. Your landlord doesn't have a secret magical pot of money to pay the property taxes out of. You're paying it. Well, you should have a say in how that money is spent. You should feel like you have connections to your county board members and to your county executive so that you can make sure you're getting something in return for your taxes.
Thank you. You did mention this, but students who live in non-campus rentals pay county property tax through their rent. What should city residents expect in return for their tax money?
Sure, and this is kind of interesting because most of the time in the city environment, you'll think first about Mayor Mike Wiesa and about the city council. It's almost like after that you'll be like, oh yeah, and there's also a county out there. But the county actually raises a much larger budget than the city and has its finger on a whole array of programs. Probably most relevant to a lot of city residents is the library system. So we have a library system that is complementary to the library on campus here. In fact, they work together quite a bit. And with the loss of a library here, maybe we should be exploring ways to make sure that the county library is more accessible to students. But also our parks and trails system is important to a lot of students. The Green Circle Trail is actually a county and municipal collaborative. Students should know that their county has relevance to them. The county is also a critical part of the Health and Human Services safety net. And so students, when they're facing issues, whether it's related to maybe being temporarily homeless or having issues with income and trying to make sure that they have meals on the table, they shouldn't be afraid or embarrassed about coming to the county and asking for assistance. Instead, we should have a county that reaches out to students and makes sure that everybody's okay.
Thank you. How do the decisions at the county affect campus, and how can the county and UWSP work together to support the university and enhance the quality of life in this county?
Sure. I feel like I've given a couple of examples already. There's more. One of the great things about this campus that's really unique is actually the arts environment that we have here and the arts education programs. And the county has a role actually in advancing the arts. Other counties around the state actually take a much more proactive role than our county has historically. More recently, the county has at least nominally supported the idea of an organization called Create Portage County that looks to somehow highlight and advance the work of artists of different types. I think that we ought to build on that and do even more of that in the future. It shouldn't be seen as something strange or extracurricular for your county government to support the arts. In other counties, for example, they use county tax dollars to support science museums. They use county money to support a zoo in Madison, in Dane County. And so we ought to be thinking about ways that the county can be made more relevant to the population of the community that is right in the urban core, because I worry that people feel disconnected from county government, that they don't see any evidence that it actually exists. And so beyond the library and beyond Create Portage County, I hope we can work with the campus to explore ways to make the county more relevant.
Thank you. That is all the questions we have. You now have 1.5 minutes for closing statements.
Okay. So once again, I want to thank you all for putting this together. I know how hard this can be sometimes, and you're doing this on top of school and work and life and everything else. This has been, an extremely exciting and eye-opening experience for me running for office. This is my first time running for elected office, and I guess I would just say for students or for anybody watching this, please do step up. There are opportunities and places for you in our community to serve in office. I feel like, I mentioned this at the SGA forum earlier before the primary, there is this weird vibe in the community that says students, they should just be separate and not get involved. And I think that's really unfortunate. I think that the campus and the community are going to be here for the next 150 years. They have been here for almost 150 years already. Why can't we work together more and embrace each other and have more of a collaborative relationship? So I want to be an ambassador from the county to the university. I believe having worked on this campus since 2004 puts me in a great position to do that. And I'm really just excited at some of the potentials here, because the great thing about this campus is that it brings new students and new blood into the community on a regular basis. And we ought to see that as just a tremendous competitive advantage, something that we need to really highlight and recognize and build upon. So again, I just want to thank everybody for taking time to listen. Thank you, students, for putting this together, and we'll go on to the next section.
Yes, thank you so much. You can just leave like that. The next position we will be, the next candidates coming up will be for City Council. This includes, sorry, one second. City Council, Lionel Weaver, Amber Schwartz, Ed Morganroth Jr., and Sean V. Shabilsky. I am County Board. Oh, my bad. Looking at the wrong list, sorry. So for City Council, that is Stephen Klein, David Shore, Thomas Leake, and Makaira Zarazuwa. Thank you, so sorry. Feel free to take the podium, or take a seat at the stand, please. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't get pronunciation guides, I'm sorry. I believe there are 3 mics, so 2 of you will have to share, unfortunately. I'm sorry. All right, I will reread the rules, and then we will go into opening statements. In order to provide the most time to hear from the candidates and to provide a fair and equal opportunity to answer questions important to you in this community, I will review the format, time, and terms for this forum. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves and make an opening statement. They will then have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. You'll have 1 minute to make a closing statement. I will repeat the question if requested. The timers are located in the front of the audience of the candidates tables. A green folder means your time has started, yellow indicates 30 seconds remaining, and red means your time has expired. Candidates may finish their sentence, but then please stop so the next candidate may respond. Candidates are asked to keep their remarks pertinent to the questions and fair to the other participants. Audience members are requested to respect the candidate's time responses and are also requested to turn off your sound making devices if you have not already. That'd be great. Sorry, y'all. The moderator reserves the right to interrupt to ensure these grounds are observed, and the order of response for each question will be rotated. Opening statements will start on the end closest to me and continue down, and from there we will rotate. So as I said, you each get 1.5 minutes for your opening statement. So you may start whenever you are ready. If you could speak into the microphone, make sure it's on. Is it on?
Hi, my name is David Shore. Put that down. We're already filming.
Hi.
Is that better? Okay. My name is David Shore. My pronouns are he, him. My daughter's pronouns are they, them. So LGBTQ issues are personal for me. I'm running for a 4th term, and the main thing to say, I think, is that together with my colleagues, we make the best decisions we can for this community and its future. And the future part is what has to do with you, because I know that it's important to me to make this a community that you want to live in, that you want to stay in. It's been gratifying these past 6 years to be able to get some good things done, especially to see the changes taking place on North Division. I might say a little bit more on a new walkway that's going to come in there a little later. It's also been a bit frustrating, especially these last 6 months, as politics have gotten quite wild and raucous, and some distortions have been very prominent. And I don't know, maybe we might talk about those as well. Thanks.
Thank you. You may pass the mic too. And you can start whenever you are ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Makaira Zarazuwa. I currently serve as District 4 alderperson. This would be my 3rd term that I'm running for. I started out as an alderperson 3 years ago. I was a student here at UWSP for the 2nd time. I came here long ago and majored in political science, and then this time around wanted to do social work. So also just finished up my master's degree in social work last year. So everything that I do on council really is through a social work lens. It's thinking about how this impacts people who have disabilities. How does this impact the elderly in our community or people who have mental health issues? Is the bus accessible for everyone? Do we have solutions that work long term if people have limited income? What kind of housing do we have? So all of those things impact when I'm making a decision on roads, transportation, housing, all of that is impacted by how it will affect people. So I think that diversity also plays a role, and inclusion. We know so many students from different backgrounds come here to the university. I'm actually the first person of color to serve on the Stevens Point City Council, which is kind of strange because it is 2022. So I will end there. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Zarazuwa. You may start whenever you're ready.
I'm Stephen Klein. Stephen Klein, I have lived here most of my life, aside from a brief stint in the military, on the same street I live on now. I am running mostly because of the ordinance rewrites and my issues with that and how I feel the ordinances are going to negatively affect residents, particularly lower income households. and more pertinent to the university crowd as tenants, issues such as rent abatement and maintenance on those rentals. Not everyone wants to be in an apartment complex. A lot of people would prefer to live in a home, and some of those homes are problematic. Parking, too.
Thank you. Candidate Leek?
Oh. Well, thank you for putting this on. I appreciate it quite a lot. This is actually the only forum for City Council this season, as far as I know. So I really appreciate it. So I'm running for re-election after one term, so this may be my second. And the first time I ran, I ran more or less just because I'm a curious person. I like to get out there and do things and take initiative and see how things go. But, and also because what I've really enjoyed about it is getting out into the community and getting to know a wider range of people than I might otherwise. And it's not that I've been, was siloed before that in like the university crowd, but, or, I knew my neighbors and so forth. But it's been great to get to know, if I may put it this way, the diversity even of my neighborhood. So, and the diversity of points of view and perspectives. And so that's been quite gratifying. Why I want to run again is for that reason. I think I've really enjoyed that aspect of the job. And also, there are some projects that are quite important to me. I really value that this city council can get things done, can make decisions, and is effective. And as Alder Shore indicated, things have been a little bit raucous recently, but I actually don't mind that. I like a little raucous, to be honest. But I think it's also when I think this council, and I'm proud to have been a part of this, does take a full view of the issues. And we've heard a lot from the community recently, and particularly.
Sorry to interrupt you, but your time has expired.
Well, thanks. I'll save that for the closing statement. I can talk
Thank
a lot,
you.
sorry.
So our first question is, why should local elections matter to students here at UWSP? And we will start with candidate Zarazuwa.
Thank you. So local elections matter because you elect the people that represent your values. And if we don't have people in office that do that, then the direction that council's going in is not going to reflect that. It's important to not only get involved when it's voting time, but also during their terms. I mean, not only is it important for them to represent your values on paper, but they have to do it in action, in practice. So I think that if you're not involved, you can't be represented, and that's what we're here for, is to represent our communities that we're coming from. Students are all throughout our city, and we want to be able to make sure that decisions that we make don't impact them negatively. We need the university to continue functioning and being a safe space and a place that people want to come here to study. The strength of our city relies on having, we can't grow without having the student population coming here. The reality is people aren't having as many kids. It's not where, the Polish community will just be enough to sustain the city. So for us to have a tax base, we need students coming here, and we need you to vote and be involved so that we make the right decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Klein?
Local elections should matter. Frankly, what happens on the local level affects you far more than anything in Madison or Washington ever possibly could. Back to the comment made about voter apathy. There are more candidates in this room right now than attendees. And I've been to several forums, and that has sort of been the standard. On the local level, we'll start with parking. A minute and a half is not a lot of time. Some of this has been changed for the positive recently, and I commend the current council for that. I had a neighbor who, college student, him and his girlfriend, and he got a parking ticket every day of the month. I can't even imagine how a person affords to pay that kind of cost. And I've seen citations with one tire off of a gravel driveway. How you determine where the gravel driveway even ends is questionable at best. But yeah, all right, anyhow.
Thank you. Candidate Leek?
Thank you. These are the two to look at right here with the folders. Okay. Well, if you get on a bus, that's a city issue. If you get, not an issue, but a city service. If you ride your bicycle, you're dealing with the city. If you're walking, you're dealing with things that, you know, the city council deals with. And your voice matters in this. And to echo what Mr. Klein said, housing is also a city issue, and the way this works, parking, all these things these are all matters that affect students directly. But also, I would just say that getting involved in local elections and local politics, it's a great, from the student's point of view, a great networking opportunity, a great way to get a lot of perspectives on things, on where you want to go with your life. And I'm sort of speaking more as an educator here than as an alder or as a candidate, but yeah, that's I think it's a great way to stay up to date and keep keep a perspective on where you're going with your future, and maybe right here in Stevens Point is where your future is.
Thank you. Candidate Shore?
Thank you. Well, my colleague Alder Zarazuwa really put her finger on the main point, which is that it's sort of a grow or die imperative. Demographics are not necessarily our friend, and that's why it is important to not only have students come to this university, but as much as possible to stay, which is what I was talking about before, about making this a community that you want to live in. A lot of the issues that we deal with, some of them very difficult, have to do with change versus the way things have been. I was thinking the other day that the Fox Theater, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it's a building right downtown on Main Street, and it's kind of a symbol of what this council has done, the approach we've taken. It's been a long-standing problem that has been around for years before we came around, and we dealt with it successfully, found a solution, saved the facade, which is the preservation, and a different function is going to be behind. It's going to be an event space rather than a theater. Couple words about parking to wrap up. I'm proud of having been the first alderperson to call for opening up on-street overnight parking. It took a few years, actually, for the rest of the council to come around. Also, this is my final sentence, as parking spots were lost on Michigan Avenue by the ball fields because of the new bicycle infrastructure that came in, I noticed that that was a loss of free parking for commuters, and I found a solution opening up free parking right across the street on 4th Avenue. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question, we mentioned this previously, but students who live in non-campus rentals pay county property tax through their rent. What should city residents expect in return for their tax money? This time we will start with candidate Klein.
I think the first thing people should expect from their city is to be left alone. Sometimes I have seen a lot of the ordinances seem to target college students, their parking, their parties. I've seen them really target activities that younger individuals do, such as the people who attend college. By and large, I think the city needs to learn to step back and leave them alone. But then also, they need to step in and make sure that landlords can't prey on them. At the moment, there is no rent abatement law or ordinance, I should say, here in Stevens Point, which would allow you to withhold rent if major maintenance issues are not being taken care of. A lot of municipalities do have such an ordinance.
Thank you. Candidate Leek?
I would say primarily a livable community. That's the main point, is that the city makes it possible for, provides the infrastructure, provides the infrastructure that makes this Stevens Point a community that works in a place where you can live and get around. So that is, we have the bus system, we have bicycle lanes, and we have, of course, automobile traffic as well. And of course, also, when it comes, one of the biggest budget line items will be the police, that people are safe, students are safe. That would be my main point. And I think, the rent abatement idea is well received. That is, that the city should be advocating for student issues like livable student housing and transportation issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shore?
Thanks. I think I'll answer this question about sort of value for money, I guess, by sharing the sort of the realities that came home to me as I got into this role. Number one, you'd be surprised how tight budgeting is. Easiest way to explain that is the city government creates one new position every few years. Not 1 or 2 positions a year. That's how tight it is. Second, the biggest driver, the X factor in the budget, is the cost of street reconstruction. By far, the scariest moment we had, I guess prior to the last 6 months, was hearing that there's a 40% inflation on road construction. That would just be crushing. And then all of which is why, on top of the grow or die point, I focus a lot on expanding the tax base. We talk a lot about the number of construction value, new projects in town, and the reason is we need to grow the property tax base with that growth to keep the burden from falling too heavily on everyone else, on homeowners. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Zarazuwa?
So you get a lot of things for your tax dollar here. This is why Stevens Point is a great place to live. As a member of City Council, I can say we make decisions that affect safety, affect the environment. We have to be conscious of groundwater and the impact that development could have on that. We provide transportation. The city bus system is not funded by the riders. The city has a portion of that. We provide parks, green space, that's free for everyone to use who comes to our community. We've really made a focus to have green space within, I think, 10 minutes distance walking from wherever you live. So we've really made that a focus in our community. And then the economic development, which was brought up, of course, making sure that we're always growing our tax base so that it doesn't fall on you. Whether you're a homeowner or a renter, you're paying those taxes too, as was brought up. And then, just knowing too that there's information at the city too. All of our city staff are available to answer questions. If you got a citation for something and you don't know why, call and ask. Also, your alderperson can help you make those connections.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next question. How do the decisions at the city level affect the campus, and how can the city and UWSP work together to support the university and enhance the quality of life in this city? This time we will start with candidate Leek.
So, actually, could you run that question one more time, if I may listen to it one more time?
Yes. How do the decisions at the city level affect campus, and how can the city and UWSP work together to support the university and enhance the quality of life in Stevens Point?
Yes, well, I would maybe touch back on some of the issues I've mentioned already. What's important to students and to the campus in general is transportation, parking, not just automobile transportation, but buses, bicycles, and as well as automobiles. In that case, when it comes to automobiles, also road reconstruction, which is, as we've been talking about here, is sort of a hot topic at the moment. Road reconstruction and also making sure the sidewalks are in good order. Now, when it comes to, I do believe that the students in the campus could be better integrated culturally into the community. So sponsoring community events in which the general public as well as the campus are invited is also another way that we can sort of integrate and make the city more, let's say, welcoming, and so it would bring the campus more to the city and the city more to the campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shore?
Thanks. So I'm going to seize this opening to talk about a pet project. The relationship between the campus and the community geographically, the spot of the problem is also the spot of sort of economic underperformance and opportunity, and that is North Division Street. So a couple things about that. One is that, so I'm big into walkability. That's kind of my thing, and I got to meet Jeff Speck last night. I'm very excited. He's the main guy on walkability. And one of the big problems you have in communities being walkable is when blocks are too long. Okay, now just think for a second about Maria and 4th Avenue and the fact that there's really not a way to get between Isidore and Division in that whole stretch until the city, with urging by me, purchased the old Maytag laundromat and is going to open a pedestrian walkway there. Sounds like a small thing. I think it's going to be as a part of a real revitalization of North Division. It's going to change the relationship, at that street level between the campus and its next door neighbor there. Final point on this. Only slightly less controversial than Church Street down to the south end of Business 51 is a roundabout that's planned for the intersection of Division and 4th Avenue. Yep.
Are you done? Sorry.
Don't even hang. I'll return and keep you in suspense.
My apologies. Candidate Zarazuwa?
So I know we've talked about a number of ways that the city policies can affect campus and students. Alder Shore was starting to talk about Business 51 and some things related to that. I mean, that goes right next to our campus district. So obviously that's something that is not just something that affects the business owners along there. That is something that we need to hear from students, what they would like to see in this corridor. The parking situation, long time issue for students, and the city has made changes regarding, I was a strong supporter of having overnight on-street parking and was able to see that come into fruition last year. I think we knew with parking, so when all of a sudden there were you were charged if you were on campus and parking. I know staff who worked here who said they had no idea this was happening despite having a good relationship with city officials. So I do think there is some opportunity for us to try to work better together. I know candidate Olson used the term ambassador. I would be more than happy to be an ambassador to maybe the SGA or the groups represented here tonight, and vice versa. Maybe there could be, the student organizations could have a representative who goes to city meetings and or county meetings, all of these other events to help spread the word of what is happening in those meetings.
Thank you. Candidate Klein?
Yeah, so the city affects life on campus. I mean, the campus is within the city, and so everything the city does affects the campus and vice versa. The question is somewhat self-answering. I'm kind of struggle to come up with an answer to the question by itself, just because really I don't see a huge difference between the two. Everything that the city does affects life on campus because people live within the city. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into closing statements. You will each get a minute. We will start again with candidate Shore.
So why am I always talking about walkability? Alder Leek made the important point about a livable community is the most important thing that we can help shape. And no community has thrived as a community, including economically particularly, if it's just a place to drive through. The fights that have been happening in local politics for this body have been about car dominance, have been about the changes needed to be more vibrant at that street level where you actually see each other and spend money, by the way. Basically, what it boils down to is that some of the resistance that we're running into is a defensive privilege. Drivers in that huge space that's publicly owned by municipalities called the right-of-way, drivers have been indulged beyond the need, frankly, and definitely beyond what makes for that vital community, which a lot of which is on foot rather than behind a steering wheel encased in steel and glass. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Zarazuwa?
I just want to say thank you for putting on this forum. I also wish that more people were here and participating, but you have to start somewhere, and I think this is an awesome place to start. Just to clarify, I'm for District 4. That is on the north side of Stevens Point, so co-op area to the river. And I would be happy to talk with any students who live in that area and would like to find out more about what I stand for. I have a Facebook page, Makaira. Vote Makaira. No, sorry, I'll have to tell you later. Makaira Zarazuwa for District 4. Everyone knows how to use Google. Also, just keep in mind that we're all here because we want to see Stevens Point thrive. I think all of us have that at the core of being a part of local government. It's a really thankless job. It doesn't pay well. It takes up a lot of time. So really, just be kind to your elected officials and those who are running. It takes a lot to put yourself out there. I hate public speaking. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. And yet, I am here because this is important, and I want to make sure that I'm representing the people of my district. So, thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Klein?
I have not seen a lot of the animosity in my race that some of the other candidates have. I keep saying it's upsetting. It just makes me feel like I'm not important enough to get a little hate mail or something. I have the utmost respect for Mark, my opponent, and we met for drinks last week, and I told him that I was just trying to get him drunk so that I could get some dirt on him. But our biggest difference is, and I don't want to speak for him, probably relate to our right to privacy, and not that it affects you that much, but the right to repair when it comes to your own home. Most of you will be tenants, so that's not really going to affect you that much, aside from landlord's ability to repair. But anyhow, I just feel very strongly that the city has gotten a little bit too much into our personal lives and our private property and our homes, and I would like to just see that backed up just a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Leek?
And thank you. I was afraid the first time around I wouldn't have enough to say. But anyway, yeah, and I actually appreciate that Alder Zarazuwa clarified the district. I'm District 8, which is Sioux Marie and eastwards out towards the airport, Whitetail subdivision, including that, as well as the Ridge Road neighborhood. This is my district, or the district I represent. I don't own it, but. What I wanted to say, earlier, and what I have touched on before, is that the one reason I want to continue is that livability is important to me. And some of the projects that are coming up, as Alder Shore indicated, very much have to do with livability and transportation, getting around in a reasonable way, reasonably quick, but that is not reliant on one mode of transportation. And in this sense, also, we can touch on something that Eric Olson mentioned, that this touches into, at least in a small way, on climate change. But I would just, at the end, I would like to, what I want to see in Stevens Point is a thriving community that integrates the university, because university students come here. As Alder Zarazuwa said, we need the new blood, as it were. Not because we're vampires, but because it's, it helps with, well, maybe taxes, I don't know. But, we hope people can stay here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we will be moving on to county board positions. So city council candidates, thank you so much. And moving on to city board supervisor candidates, we again have Lionel Weaver, Ed Morgan Ross Jr., Amber Schwartz, and Sean, Shabilsky. I'm sorry, guys. Amberly Schwartz. That's on me. All right, well, the candidates get situated. I will again read the rules. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves and make an opening statement. From there, they will have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. They will also have 1 minute to make a closing statement. I can repeat the question if asked. The timers are located in the front of the audience at the candidates' tables. Green means your time has started, yellow indicates 30 seconds remaining, and a red folder means your time has expired. Candidates may finish their sentence, then please stop so the next candidate may respond. Candidates are asked to keep their remarks short and pertinent to the questions and fair to the participants. Audience members are requested to respect the candidate's time and responses, and are also requested to turn off your sound devices. I've said that twice, so if you haven't, that's on you. The moderator reserves the right to interrupt to ensure that these grounds are observed, and the order of response will change from question to question. We will start with opening statements, and we will start at the very front closest to me, whenever you are ready.
Working? All right, great. Hi, everybody. My name's Ed Morganroth. I am running for County Board Supervisor for District 14. District 14 is basically in Plover on either side of Post Road. I won't go any further. There's probably nobody here from District 14, but I want to thank the Gay Alliance and thank you folks, UWSP, for putting this on. As someone else said, this is the only forum I've been a part of, and I know I'm not the running for county exec or something else, but still, it's a, so thanks to you folks. A little bit of my background. I served on the, my family's been here we've been in Plover for a little over 25 years. We've got 2 grown kids that have left the nest. I had a career in insurance and finance, last 25 years with Wausau Insurance Nationwide. Probably a lot of people are familiar with the 3 white buildings up in Wausau, but that was owned by Nationwide. So I've got a background in that. I served on the school board here twice over different times, so I have some experience in local government and on boards. I am running for county supervisor because I think I've got, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Schwartz?
Is this on? Okay. All right. So my name is Amberly Schwartz. I'm running for County Board Supervisor for District 19, which also not necessarily likely anyone's here from that district, but maybe someone will watch, hopefully. So my district is the township of Linwood, which is west of town, and then the town of Plover, south of the village of Plover. And just a little bit of the northern portion of the town of Grant. So it's all rural, it's all out there. One of the major reasons I'm running is because in that district specifically, and some other of the rural districts in our county, there are some pretty severe nitrate issues in the groundwater. I have a degree in water resource management. I'm not saying I'm an expert in anything, but I feel like I can do something to help that. So I'm running so that I can do what I can to serve this community, because I really love this community. We came back here, we're staying, we're not going anywhere. So I'd like to do something to make some positive change for the long term. I have some public service experience, no government experience. This is my first time being involved in local politics at all, so it's interesting. But I served with AmeriCorps for 2 years for the Farm to School program. I'm really passionate about sustainable agriculture, so between that and the water resource management, I really feel like I can pull those together to do something to help. I'm sorry, I forgot to say thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here, because it's the only forum I was invited to as well. So thank you to the Gender and Sexuality Alliance.
Thank you. We'll just continue down the line. Candidate Weaver?
Hello. My name's Lionel Weaver. I think the last time that I was in this room, it was prior to the beginning of the pandemic. And I came here for a horseshoes and hand grenade show, and they were serving Central Waters beer in the background. Not that this is not cool, but it just has a slightly different vibe this evening. I am a candidate for District 3, and I think that's significant given that we're literally sitting in District 3. When I moved here with my family, we were very deliberate in deciding that we wanted to live right by the university. We thought that it would offer us culture and amenities that we really thought were important. We have a young son who literally has grown up at the university. He went to preschool over at the UCLCC. He went to 4K. at Gazelle, so he's like been hanging out at college basically his whole life. So I think the university plays a critical role in our community, especially in District 3. And I think that it's, not an afterthought by any means. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move down the line.
Is this, okay, it's on.
There we go.
My name is Sean Chabilski, pardon me, and I am running in District 6 in Portage County, which, using landmarks, if you think about Business 51 from about Belts to about South Point. So those are places that most people will know about if you live here. And probably east to about halfway to Iverson. I'm a 5th generation Portage County resident and a lifelong resident if you subtract the years I went to the University of Minnesota and spent some time teaching in Alaska. And my wife and I moved back actually because we had 2 young kids and we decided that if we were gonna raise them, we wanted to raise them here because we both had great experiences here and we just wanted to make sure that they had the same experiences. I am lucky enough to work here at the university at the library, which isn't going away, I promise. The library the books will be in Plover, but we will have a presence in the Collins building, so make sure to come visit us there. I'm running for office for the first time in my life, and I've always been sort of involved with politically and behind, doing random things, knocking on doors for people I know and like. But I've always been lucky. I've always had representatives on the county and city level that I liked. So there was never really I never really felt the need to run for anything. But this is an opportunity for me because there's no incumbent in District 6 right now, and I'm a big believer in the adage that decisions are made by people who show up. So I'm trying to show up, and here I am.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into our first question. Why should local elections matter to students here at UWSP? And this time we will start with candidate Amberly Schwartz.
This is a really, really good question, and I think it's important. I think elections should matter to everyone. I mean, they should matter to students here, even though maybe you don't live here permanently, you still use public resources. You're still using the parks, you're still biking down the streets, you're still driving on the roads. And so to have some say in those resources and who's representing you, where you live at that time is very important. I mean, it's also your civic duty, you could say, to vote because you can't expect to be represented if you don't participate. I mean, a lot of the students here, you might not know it yet, but you are the future of our community. You might not know you're gonna stay here, you might not know you're gonna come back here, but I guarantee some of you will. And this will be where you decide to make your home someday. I hope a lot of you do. I did. I came here as a student in 2007, and I'm glad I came back, and I'm not leaving again because this is home now. And so if you want to protect possibly your future home or someone else's, it's very important to engage, and you can do that by voting.
Thank you. We will next move on to candidate Lionel Weaver.
Sorry, I had to overcome the technological. If you made a choice to come to the university, you obviously necessarily made a choice to be a part of this community, and you are a part of this community. And maybe you're only going to be here 4 years, maybe 8 years, who knows? It's kind of a choose your own adventure, but as Amberly suggested, you may actually fall in love with the place and stay here. So I think that you are, as a student, just as critical as any other citizen that's living here. And I think the whole point of the notion of representative democracy is you've got a voice and you should use it. So I think it's very important.
Thank you. Candidate Prabilski?
I think that despite the fact that the volume is up on social media and everywhere on the national issues, and people sort of need to refocus on the fact that the stuff that really affects our lives is the stuff at the local level. I mean, whether it's my parents in the town of Stockton have a well, and they haven't been able to drink their water in about 15 years. Things like the library downtown, which is a county and city issue. The fact that the county and city kind of need to get together on figuring out what to do about maintaining the building. Things like that that really affect our day-to-day lives are things that we need to think about more when we think about politics. And I think students, I think they know that. And I think that getting out to vote is maybe just the next step. And I think we all need to encourage that.
Thank you. Candidate Morganroth?
All right. Yeah, thanks. I think, as we've heard so many people talk about tonight, there's a ton of students from people literally my age to people the students' age here that wind up staying in Stevens Point and Portage County. Amber Lee's mentioned it. The rest of these folks have mentioned it. Other people, alders have mentioned it. It's a fact. So students may wind up living here, but even if they don't, they're here 4 years. You know, people can't say, well, I'm not going to get involved, or I'm not going to vote, or I'm not going to care, because I may not live here for the rest of my life or for 20 years. That's a cop-out. Number two, as has been mentioned, the county and the cities, they provide a number of functions that impact people, from the courts to parks to roads to county health care, which now there's also some of these functions are also handled by the university, but they're also handled by the county. And so it's your own quality of life that you're impacting. And lastly, it's a civic duty. People, whether you're a student or not, you need to be involved. You need to vote, and it's a responsibility. It's like mowing your lawn, taking care of your kids and your pets, etc. It's a responsibility, and you should be informed. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Students who live in non-campus rentals pay into property tax through their rent. So what should these students and other city residents expect in return for their taxpayer money? We will start with candidate Weaver.
I think we've heard some of these things already, so I don't want to repeat things, but I think what students should expect is that they're actually getting real value, and I think that includes having services that are relevant and pertinent to the student population. I think it's having services where students can actually be engaged. I guess I think that in perhaps all respects, students should have the same expectations as other folks who live in the community. The dollars are going in, and I think it's important to, get value out of that. The library, I think, was something that was mentioned earlier, and I think that is certainly pertinent. Sean, again, no suggestion that your library is going away, but that's absolutely something that students can use as a resource. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Prabilski?
Well, there's an old saying that taxes are the price we pay to have a society. And I think the one thing that people can expect are those services, and there's often a focus on I'm a taxpayer. Why am I paying for things that I don't use? And you need to step back a little bit and just remember that everything that taxes are going towards, whether you're a homeowner, whether you're a renter, whether you're a business, these are things that contribute to the greater good, whether it's a fire department. I'll put a plug in for parks because I'm on the parks board. The library, schools. We want all of these things to help us function as a society. And, you know, we're all here because we want to make those things as good as they can be and use that money that taxes is providing as best as we can. So I think were I to be elected, I would really focus on that and making sure that the services are really as top-notch as they can be.
Thank you. Candidate Morganroth?
Yeah, like Lionel said, you know, we don't need to go over every service, but students like our residents, they use the services that the county provides and that the city of Stevens Point provides, et cetera. I think two additional things that students should expect is they should expect that the various governmental bodies, which in this case, because UWSP is wholly contained within the city of Stevens Point and the county, get along, collaborate, communicate, cooperate, and recognize there's, you know, there's common goals, et cetera. And sometimes there's a little bit of intentionally or unintentionally friction and a lack of communication. We've just seen that with I think it was admitted by both parties on the Business 51, the road diet issue, where I heard both parties say, you know, we can communicate better. So I think that's an expectation that students have, is that the city, and that they would recognize that there needs to be mutual appreciation. In other words, the students add value to our community, and the whole university does. An incredible amount of economic value and everything else, and the city needs to recognize that. And the students need to recognize that they have to fit in as good neighbors, and for the most part they do, and understand the concerns of the residents at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Schwartz?
Yeah, I agree with what Lionel said, that students should be able to expect to be treated more or less the same as any citizen who lives in this area, who lives in Stevens Point or Portage County, as far as they are paying taxes, and so they should be receiving the same services. They should be able to expect local government to provide services that protect them, that improve their lives, things like clean water, public transportation, safe roads, safer biking, which may be more important to students than other people around the campus, safe public transportation, law enforcement, fire services. I mean, all of these things have been commented on already. I also think it's important to mention that they should expect to be treated as equals, not like someone who's just transient here for a little while, but someone who lives here now. They are paying taxes, and they should expect to be treated as a part of this community, because they are.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into our next question. How do the decisions at the county level affect campus, and how can the county and UWSP work closer together to support the university and the city? We will start with candidate Prabilski.
Well, there's this old concept that I think goes back to about the Middle Ages of the town and gown, the separation in a college town between the university community and the community at large. And I think UWSP in a lot of ways blurs that line quite a bit. I mean, politics nerd over here, I'm a huge fan of, you know, the Wisconsin idea. And the fact that the university's borders are not campus, it's the entire state. And I think UWSP does a really great job on a smaller scale of doing just that. I mean, we're a week out from trivia, which is one of the biggest events in our town, in our county, and it's a university event. And so not only does that bring people into, you know, listening to the radio station and interacting with the university, but, you know, it brings in a lot of tax dollars. People come from all over the place. They come back to to Stevens Point and Portage County to play trivia. And, things like, the library, the museum, stuff that, I grew up going to the university museum on field trips. There's a lot of interaction between the two, and I'd love to see that expand and continue.
Thank you. Candidate Morganroth?
Yeah, I guess this is, again, we're talking about the interaction between the county. Just to make sure that it's on. We on? Yeah. Okay, maybe I wasn't holding it right. Sorry, guys. To make sure that, more discussion on the county and how it interacts with the university. One thing that I thought of is I think there simply needs to be, and Eric Olson alluded to this, or didn't allude to it, but said it, that in his view, and I think I agree, that the county hasn't done all it could do to interface with, interact with, communicate with the university, and perhaps vice versa, but to make sure that, that the county knows what the university is looking for, or where they think improvement could be made, and that the university knows what opportunities might lie for it to work, whether it's doing certain research on groundwater or other economic development activities, et cetera. So there needs to be, I think, some more collaboration and just increase the overall communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Schwartz?
I think our county gains so much by having a campus right here. Two campuses, really, with Mid-State too, and UW Stevens Point having the water lab, having the College of Natural Resources. There are a lot of benefits to be gained by the county from the campus and vice versa. I mean, we could work with more internships. We do use the water lab for some studies. There are a lot of ways that we can improve those relationships, and I'm completely for that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Candidate Weaver?
So Ed used the word collaboration, and I think that actually nails it. I think there's a lot of opportunities for there to be more of an effort to work together, to include representation from the university. Obviously the university has a major sustainability component to it, and as the county thinks about those kinds of things, it seems natural that the two kind of pieces could leverage each other, and they almost can complement and serve as resources for one another. So I see that as something. I think about, for example, the county's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which is still relatively young. I think it's only been in existence for 18 months. The fact that we have a committee, I think, is huge. I think a foundation has been set there, and I think now it will be critical to take that foundation and build upon it. And to me, it seems, again, like a very natural corollary to engage folks at the university to participate in that.
Thank you. That was the last of the questions, so we will move into closing statements. We will again start with candidate Morganroth.
All right, thank you. Get the mic on this time? Oh, man, I'm getting with it. Last question, though. What can I say? I have identified a number of issues that, or I shouldn't say I've identified, but a number of people have identified some issues that that are important to the county right now that are coming up, that have, and some of which have been going on a long time. And those include, not necessarily in any order, but those include, there's a referendum coming up on April 5th, so hopefully, as a lot of people have said, everybody will be able to vote that is registered and can vote for the healthcare center, which has been around since 1931 and takes care of anyone who needs it, both economically, mostly seniors, but someone else that doesn't have to be a senior if they're not able to afford other care. Number two, there's a question of what does the county do with the jail and the justice center. A third item is county finances. I think that an overall review is in order, et cetera. And there's, let's see, I had another, make sure I remember, water quality is important. Eric's mentioned this, absolutely have to do that. And county has $13 million. That's half of it is arrived, half of it is not. We need to look at that. And so those are some of the issues. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you. Candidate Schwartz?
Well, Ed hit all the big ticket items for the county coming up, so that's good.
Save you time.
Yeah, you hit them all. So I just want to thank you again for this opportunity to speak. This is the first forum I've ever done. This is the only one I've been invited to, so thank you very much for the time. I hope I did okay. And yeah, I think we have an opportunity here to really move Portage County forward, and I really hope all of you go out and vote. And anyone watching on the camera, thank you for taking the time to watch and listen. Thank you to all the other candidates for coming out and taking the time to actually be here and give people a chance to hear what you have to say. So, thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Weaver?
I want to echo the thank yous for you putting this event on. I wasn't doing that kind of thing as an undergraduate student. But I think it's really important. I think it's critical to see the student population engaged, and efforts to do things like this, which help inform voters, I think are critical. So again, I really thank you for it. I used a phrase earlier, representative democracy, and I think it's really critical because all in all, I think what we need at the local level are people that are cool-headed and are thoughtful and are approaching things for the right reasons to be of service and are capable of making informed decisions which benefit all of us. So I can't stress it enough. As a student, I think you have a critical opportunity here to use your voice in a manner that will have a direct impact upon your everyday life. So I would encourage you to get informed, be engaged, and go out and vote on Tuesday. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Prabilski?
I just want to echo what everybody else has said, to thank you guys. I didn't have a chance to do that in my opening. I thought I'd not have enough things to say, and apparently I just ran out of time. No, I really appreciate it because this is not only the first time I've ran for office of any kind, it's the first time I've done a forum like this, and so I really want to thank you for the invite. It's a good experience. I mentioned about decisions being made by those who show up, and part of the reason that I'm running is just because I see a lot of things going on locally reflecting things that are going on nationally, and whether it's the policy or just the climate, things are so heated right now, and I think it's really important that, first of all, that we come together and find solutions for things. But in this climate, I'm talking to people in my district, I think it's really important to make sure that somebody is in the county supervisor role from District 6 that reflects our values and makes sure that that voice is being heard from our neighborhoods. So yeah, get out and vote on Tuesday and, take a friend with you and get them registered.
Thank you. Well, that concludes all the questions for the county board positions. So thank you all for your answers. We will now be moving on to school board candidates. And this includes Rob Mansky, Jeff Ebel, Barb Portson, Jennifer Bushman, Miguel Campos, Alex Summers, and Dennis Robb.
Nice job, gentlemen, gentle lady.
For those who are just joining us, we have moved on to the school board section. So if you are a school board candidate, feel free to join us on the stage here. Thank you.
Full disclosure, whoever sits here is going to get the first question. So I told him.
He's figured out my pattern. Oh, no. Yeah. Sit next to someone you don't mind sharing a mic with. We only have 3, so there's 7 of you, so sharing is caring in this situation, so thank you. I will again reread the rules, and then we will go into opening statements. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to introduce yourselves and make an opening statement. You will then have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. You will also have 1 minute for a closing statement, and I will repeat the question if asked. Candidates will respond to some questions submitted by the Gender and Sexuality Alliance. Excuse me. Sorry. The timers are located in the front of the audience, in front of the candidates' tables. Green means your time has just begun. Yellow means you have 30 seconds remaining. And red means your time has expired. You may finish your sentence, but then please stop so we may move on to the next candidate. Candidates are asked to keep their remarks permanent to the questions and fair to the other participants. Audience members are requested to respect the candidate's time and responses, and are also requested to turn off your sound-making devices. If you haven't done so, please do. The moderator reserves the right to interrupt to ensure these ground rules are observed. The order of response to each question will be rotated, sorry. The order of the opening statements will be chosen by closest to me, then going outward, and from there, a different order will be established. So you each have a minute for your opening statements. Like I said, we'll start with those closest to me, so you may go whenever you are ready.
A minute or a minute and a half?
A minute and a half for the opening statements, my bad. Minute 30 for the opening, minute 30 for the questions, minute for closing.
All right, so I missed that minute, you said?
Minute 30.
Minute 30, okay. All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Miguel Campos. I was born in Odessa, Texas, later moved to the greater Wausau area in the 1980s, and then over to this fine community in 2005, where I attended this university here. Met my amazing wife, settled down with 2 awesome boys and a lanky little golden doodle named Ollie. I've spent the past 11 years in the insurance industry addressing small business risks. I spent the past 6 years building my own real estate investment company. I've spent countless hours helping young entrepreneurs learn the things I never had help learning. Countless hours volunteering locally, and I'm currently a board member with the Ignite Young Professionals of Portage County, focused on advancing career development and vitality locally. I've also served on the Community Foundation's grant committee, reviewing grant requests from numerous local organizations, and coached a great deal of Stevens Point children in soccer at the YMCA. Those of you who know me well know that I'm a very tolerant, patient, and critical thinking leader. I understand that every person has a story, and I haven't yet read everyone's book. So I make it a point that my best quality is being that of an excellent listener, a skill that I think is paramount to being both an effective school board member and bridge builder between the community, the staff, and the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just continue down the line.
It's on. Hey, there we go. First of all, thank you very much for having us. Really appreciate that. And thank you to all of the citizens, concerned citizens, that are taking time out of your precious evenings to be here tonight to hear what we have to say. My name is Jeff Ebel. I am running for another seat on the school board. I have served on the school board now for 9 years. I have had 3 terms, and I had so much fun, I decided to run again. I was born and raised in Stevens Point. I am a real townie. All but 2 years anyway I spent here. I am married and raised 2 wonderful children here that went through the public school system. My son is an electromechanical engineer in Colorado, and my daughter is a physician in Kenosha. And I am a proud grandfather. Unfortunately, my children aren't here. I would love to have them have stayed in Stevens Point, but part of the work that we do here is to create opportunities for our citizens so that they can stay here. We would love to have our family members remain in the area and have the opportunities that they need to grow and prosper and to realize their lot in life. So my work here, not only in the community but on the school board, is to make sure that we have that quality of life here that really can keep our children here and provide opportunities for them in the future.
Thank you. Continuing down the line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Robbie. I've been in public schools every year since I was 4 years old, and I've been in public schools for about 61 years, so you can do the math. I've been a student, I've been a classroom teacher, I've been a principal, and I've been a district administrator. Everything I have in life was provided to me because of the doors that were opened by public educators. I also have 2 children and one one daughter-in-law. She'll appreciate that. One daughter-in-law who are educators. I also have a loving wife who, during my career as administrator, when I came home and I was stressed, and some days I was, she made sure that I came home to a loving, comfortable, accepting family. I guess my point is that I'm a fierce defender of public education, a fierce advocate of public education, and I'm a fierce advocate for public educators. It's been my honor to serve communities, students, teachers, and families throughout this area and really throughout Wisconsin during my career, and I look forward to hopefully being on the school board and continuing that service to communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jennifer Bushman. I was born in Honolulu and raised in Southern California, where I spent most of my life. I relocated here 12 years ago. My husband is from the area. I'm the oldest of 5 daughters, and I'm a first-generation college graduate. I'm the only college graduate in my family. I've always been passionate about education and hard work. I earned my bachelor's at San Diego State University in communication and my master's from Cal State University Fullerton in speech communication. And I came from messy and meager beginnings. I didn't have much guidance on what to do after high school, so proud to share that I earned both my bachelor's and master's without ever having to take out student loans, and worked upwards of 5 part-time jobs to be able to do so. And I share this because if there's anyone in a similar situation, I want you to recognize there's possibilities and hope. Even if it feels like the odds are stacked against you, I always saw education as my way out of the crazy life that I had as a child. And so my husband's a veteran and a small business owner. I have 3 kids enrolled in the district sitting back there watching me. So 2 in elementary school and 1 in junior high. They will be enrolled in the district for 10 more years, so I have a vested interest. And regarding my professional background, I taught at the public and private university, speech communication. I work for a global Fortune 20 organization. I'm the director of talent management and leadership strategy. So myself and my team, you think about everything regarding the talent management life cycle, the attraction and retention of talent, the inclusion and diversity piece, learning and leadership development is within my remit. And I thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
My name is Barb Portson, and I am running for my third term on the school board. I'm a lifelong educator. After high school, I came up here and graduated with a business education degree, which means you can teach business courses. It doesn't exist anymore, but neither do dinosaurs. I also got my master's degree from UW-Stevens Point. Went to school here and fell in love, got married, had a couple kids. They're grown. I have 5 grandchildren that I love dearly. They're in the area, unlike Jeff doesn't have those babies right around here. I love being in education. I love everything about it. Once I retired, I taught at Pacelli for 4 years, the Catholic high school. And then I taught for nearly 30 years at Mid-State Technical College here in Stevens Point. When I retired, I just couldn't keep my nose out of education. And so I joined the board, and I love everything about what we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Rob Mansky. I grew up in a farm outside of Green Bay, came to UWSP, studied communication, graduated in the time of grunge and mullets. I then went to lacrosse because when I was a student here, I fell in love with universities. I fell in love with college, and I decided to do that as a career. I did my master's in lacrosse and higher education administration, came back to UWSP, worked in this building for 6 years, came back in 2000, worked with student leaders, with volunteerism. I worked with a program called America Reads, where we placed work study students in the elementary schools. I moved to the Chancellor's office in 2006, and since then I've been the Chief of Staff and Legislative Liaison for Chancellor Gibson. My job is education administration. My passion is education. I've worked in higher ed my entire career. What I have done on the school board for 1 year, I want to continue to do, and that is to help students succeed. All students, all backgrounds, all abilities, all genders, all students succeed, and we can do that when we all work together.
Thank you.
My name is Alex Summers. I grew up here. I was born in Point and have lived in Point other than when I lived in Spain. And I went to the University of St. Thomas for 1 year, but then transferred back here. I got my degree, my bachelor's in English, Spanish, English as a second language education from the university here. I'm a teacher in Rosholt. I've been teaching there for 10 years, Spanish, English, and English as a second language. I married my wife, who also graduated from here. She graduated with her bachelor's in elementary ed. We live just south of Plover. We have 7 children and a little hobby farm. So my life is education as well. So for me, education is a huge element of who I am. My sister is an orchestra teacher. I teach Spanish, English, and English as a second language. I also have my master's in educational administration. So I also understand the value of curriculum, design, education from being still in the classroom, teaching 7 classes every single day. I understand the value of having a teacher voice because they are in the classroom. They understand what's going on in the classroom.
Thank you. That concludes opening statements, so we'll move on to the first question. How can current curriculum in the school district be improved to impact the issues of oppression, bias, marginalization, and safety? We will start this with candidate Ebel.
Thank you. Could you repeat that question one more time?
Yes. How can current curriculum in the school district be improved to impact issues of oppression, bias, marginalization, and safety?
Very good question. probably not so much curriculum, although that's very important, but the activities, the things that we do within the school district, I think can definitely have a big impact on that. We recently hired two positions at the school district for the EDI coordinator and also another assistant in that area. And that's their focus. One is focused on bridging the communication between the school district and the community, and the other position is really involved with the students on a day-to-day basis, helping those that are marginalized, and that there's a lot of different ways that you can measure marginalized people. That can be economic, it can be social, it can be race, gender, so there are a number of different ways. And I think those are things that we can do that can really improve equity and include students of all ilks, basically, in our community and in our educational system.
Thank you. Candidate Rabi?
I would suggest 3 ways in which school board members can impact the curricular choices that you've mentioned. First of all, as you know, the school board members don't develop curriculum, but we do approve the curriculum that is utilized in the classroom. So as someone who has dealt in curriculum their entire life, or a good portion of their life, I feel very comfortable in being an overseer of curriculum and assuring that it includes those components. The more direct effect that we have, though, is policy development. And as a school board, we're responsible to develop policy that assures that all students, regardless of unique characteristics, are safe in our school. Not only safe, but they feel comfortable and accepted in our classrooms. And that's really through policy development. We set the tone for the district and later on for the curriculum that's developed. So that would be an important component. The final way is that we help direct, that we can impact curriculum such as that is that we establish yearly goals for our superintendent and administration. And certainly we have a responsibility in instilling those goals to make sure that the components of the community that we serve are involved in that. So those are 3 ways I would see us impacting that curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bushman?
So I don't see it as really curriculum. I see it as really weaving all of that into the classroom environment. And so, you know, ensuring that teachers, that we are giving them professional development time so that they can understand how to make students feel safe and that they belong within the classroom. And so, you know, I think, you know, when it's just curriculum, a lot of people see it as start and stop. And so really giving teachers the tools to ensure that it's a wraparound and we weave it into the complete environment. I mean, even speaking to a teacher tonight, we had a meet and greet this evening, and she said just something as simple as representation in literature in the classroom. You know, she recognized that she needed more diversity in terms of representation on the literature. And then lastly, just giving the teachers resources so that they can feel more comfortable, ensuring that they are equipped to make the students feel safe and that they belong. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Portson?
Like Dennis said, we don't write the curriculum, although I've written plenty in my lifetime. I like to rely on our teachers. They're the experts in their area. Jennifer mentioned professional development. That's crucial. But it's crucial across the board. I know that from my experience, I have a couple of grandsons in the school district that have had issues with ADD, and I've got another one that's got all kinds of things, something that nobody's ever heard of. And the teachers didn't know how to deal with the kid with ADD. You know, I walked into the school one day and saw him sitting in the office staring at a blank wall. I'm pretty sure you don't do that with an ADD kid. Anyway, we need to give them the resources. Right now, we're working hard to use our ESSER funds, our COVID dollars, to increase the support for the teachers so they can work more closely with the kids. And if we could find them, we'd like to hire social workers and psychs as well.
Thank you. Candidate Tamansky?
Equity, diversity, and inclusion should be embedded in every grade across the curriculum in all of our schools. Bottom line, the school district sets the vision, and our vision includes equity, inclusivity, and diversity. That's what we need to be all about, and that's what we all are about. Every student that walks through our door, we need to educate, and we need to embed this across the curriculum. We need to listen to our students, we need to listen to our staff and our teachers. They're the ones that are telling us that a lot of the times that they want this, and we need to listen to them and make sure that they are listened to and heard. And that includes the community members as well, because that's where we work with. And what was brought up before, the school board doesn't develop the curriculum, we set the vision. And our vision as a district is to include all of those types of curriculum across the board.
Thank you. Candidate Sommers?
Anytime curricular things are brought up, there's elements of contention. And I think part of what has been echoed here is the idea that the school board does not create curriculum, rather we approve or we say we have to go back to the drawing board. When we're looking at curricular choices, as a board, we have to ensure that the students' needs are being met, that they are meeting our district's vision, our district's goals. Moreover, that the outcomes are visible. They're shown through whether it's testing or greater competence in a particular area. That's what the curriculum has to have an outcome. So when measuring that outcome, we have to say, are the students feeling safe? How are we providing teachers with the necessary resources to ensure that they are enabling students to feel like they are able to succeed in the classroom? If a student feels they're unable to succeed for whatever reason, it is difficult for them to learn. So we have to ensure that students have the ability to learn in their classrooms. So if they don't feel safe or they don't feel like they're being heard, we as a district also have to be addressing that, but that's through teacher and staff input and training, so we can ensure that all teachers are familiar and comfortable with the curriculum as well as with providing for our students.
Thank you. Candidate Campos?
Short-term memory loss after all that. Can you please repeat that question for me?
Of course. How could current curriculum in the school district be improved to impact issues of oppression, bias, marginalization, and safety?
Okay, perfect. First, I definitely think we need to talk to the teachers to understand how the current curriculum is or isn't working. I am a big proponent of including parents, business leaders, and staff, as well as the students, to understand what they feel is working, and understand that, as I understand it, I should say, the board members do not actually approve or make up the curriculum. That is something that we have to approve, but we need to really understand like what is working, what isn't working, which we need a lot of transparency with the teachers. We need to be open with the teachers. We need to include students to understand what is working for them. We need to understand what the business community needs. The business community looks a lot different. The needs of the workforce are a lot different from when I went to school, completely different from when I went to school. So I think when we're looking at improving curriculums, we really need to understand what the new world we live in needs in order for us to make educated decisions on curriculum that will best suit the needs of our future workforce, given it be a vocational school afterwards, whether it be working in trades, whether it be straight to an industry. We need to understand what the purpose of going to school is for these individuals, and we need to understand what they need to learn. And it's through communication with everybody involved in the school system.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. How could staff training in the district be improved to address the issues of oppression, bias, marginalization, and safety? This time we will start with Dennis Robbie.
It seems like a difficult question, so In the act of chivalry, I'm going to let Jennifer go first. No. No, staff development is certainly key in any kind of issue that is new to a community, controversial to a community. And my experience has been that staff development takes place most closely at the building level. I think when you have a district staff development attempts that when you put everybody into a room, it just gets lost. People, they want to chat, they want to talk to people they haven't seen in a long time, and it's pretty ineffective. The other thing is that really important with staff development of this issue or any issue really is that a one-time and done doesn't mean a thing. If you really want to institutionalize and culture, put something into the culture, you have to have consistent staff development where you have the training, you allow staff to utilize what they've learned and the knowledge level they've learned in that training, and then you come back and you discuss and you have more in-depth training. But the mistake that most districts make is, and a lot of buildings make, is that they try these one-and-done things and they really are ineffective. So it has to be something that's ongoing, institutionalized, and something that becomes part of your culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bushman?
So I think we need clear success measures, and kind of to what Dennis alluded to, it can't be one and done. We have to ensure that we continue to weave this in the practice and the culture. We're going to need buy-in. So input from the teachers is going to be critical to help set the vision and the strategy in terms of what professional development should be focused on. And so define the success measures, define the outcomes we're looking to achieve. This can't be one and done. If we really want to sustain change and professional development in terms of what we are offering them, it needs to be ongoing. And the piece that I think I hear in speaking with teachers that we're missing is, and when we think about professional development, it's that measurement piece. So you don't just sit there and go through the session once, but like, how are we measuring success? That's going to be key. And so, thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Portson?
Well, with all professional development, you have to have a real purpose. And I have sat through plenty of professional development sessions and got nothing out of them. And so I think they have to be interactive. They have to be valid for what's going on now. You know, our classrooms are different than when I went to school. I know that's shocking news. I think administrators sometimes forget that purpose part. I mean, their responsibility is to offer the session. And after that, you know, they're done. But if you've got goals and you really are interacting with those instructors and they understand their purpose in that training, I think they'll be just fine.
Thank you. Candidate Mansky?
Much like the curriculum, it needs to be infused with training across the board, data-driven, empirical-based, research-based outcomes, start to finish. There are models out there that we can use. It will be a culture change. It will take time, but it has to be something that the district is committed to from start to finish. Some of these conversations are not easy. Some of the topics are not comfortable. We have to have these conversations. We have to have these conversations within ourselves as teachers and staff. We need to have these conversations with our students, with our kids. They need to understand these issues, and first, the teachers and staff need to understand, and they need to work through it. And it will take time, it will take resources, but it'll take a commitment from the district to make sure that it happens. And the board is there to set the vision, just like with the curriculum. That's our job. To tell the teachers and the staff and the students that we support them, we appreciate them, we're listening to them, and we're designing programs to help them become better teachers, to become better engaged in the community.
Thank you. Candidate Sommers?
As has been alluded to, you have to have buy-in in whatever the goal of the district is. So as Mr. Mansky mentioned, you have to have that outcomes. You have to know and you have to be able to support the teachers. You have to divert funds. You have to support all the district in order to ensure that everyone is on the same page. If you don't have buy-in in whatever district, my brain is going to Spanish, so give me a second, that whatever district teaching is through the staff trainings. I've been to a lot of staff training over my 10 years as a teacher, and to ensure that staff training is valid, or good, we have to ensure that the teachers feel it valuable. Otherwise, teachers feel that we are going to trainings for nothing. It's wasted time, wasted money, and there's no outcome. So we have to ensure that whatever is being taught at those staff trainings, that it is valuable to the teachers. Otherwise, the teachers will ignore it. So if we don't say that whatever our district goal is, that it is pertinent to student achievement and to assist teachers to be the best teachers they can be, the staff will ignore it. So we have to ensure that the staff do buy into whatever the district goals are.
Thank you. Candidate Campos?
Staff development, I definitely think it's extremely important. In my job, it's mandated for us to do ongoing training. I think it's important, but I think we also have to understand, we need input from the teachers to understand what it is they need training on. We live in a very dynamic society, without a doubt. Things are ever changing year to year, and that seems to be rapidly speeding up. And so I think we need to seek input on a regular basis from the teachers to understand what kind of training they actually need. Versus, I don't know exactly how staff training works, if it comes down from principals, if it comes down from the board, but I definitely think wherever it comes down from, we definitely need to include teachers in there to understand what the problems are, to understand what kind of training they need. That way we can maximize the benefits of the training. I echo a lot of what people are saying up here with trainings, including the training that I do in my personal life. So a lot of it is a waste of time and a waste of money, and the moment I'm done with it, I forget 90% of what was discussed, which means it's a waste of money for the district that could be used somewhere else. So again, communication with teachers and staff to understand where they think they need improvement, and maybe conversations with parents to see, get their opinion on what they think needs to be improved, and maybe cater the type of training that they need or staff development that considers the opinion of parents as well. But overall, communication and, yes, staff development is extremely important.
Thank you. Candidate Ebel?
Could you humor me and slowly repeat the question?
Yes. How could staff training in the district be improved to address issues of oppression, bias, marginalization, and safety?
Safety.
Yes.
Well, again, I guess I can repeat what everyone said here is, yeah, you should train your people to understand how to keep your students safe, how to not be biased. These are topics that have been around for many years. I am glad that at least we're starting to recognize that a lot of these things we are unconscious. The way we behave, the way we conduct our business, the way we teach our students, the way we act in these environments. So I think first of all, the most important thing is to even talk about it. Some of these, and I asked specifically because I wanted to make sure I got the terms right, because some of these terms by themselves tend to be toxic today. In some cases, it's really hard to even have the conversation. So I think first of all, you have to talk about it. You have to get out and say, these are important issues. And these are things that generally we have blind spots. And by definition, a blind spot is something you're unaware of. So sometimes it takes someone from outside to be able to point those out in our behavior where we are acting biased or we are not concerned with the safety of other students and others around us. So again, I think the first most important thing is to make people aware that these are very important issues.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. What is your position on the current What is your position on the current conversation / national debates regarding the tenets of critical race theory, and can you define critical race theory? We will start with candidate Bushman.
So this is a hot topic. I have never spent as much time trying to research what critical race theory is. And the more that I research, I recognize that there are people that say that it exists just at the universities. I've spoken to teachers throughout this campaign, and many educators are saying it's not in the classroom. I've spoken to community members and parents who are saying, yes, there are basic tenets of critical race theory in the classroom. And my position is, and no, I can't define it, but my position is that I think we spend a lot of conversation and a lot of time on debating this. And that takes away from what we should be spending most of our time on, and that's ensuring that our students are proficient in their core subjects. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Portson?
I think that this has been blown up in our society to frustrating levels. I don't believe it is taught in our school district, although some parents think that because we teach some history, you know, not all history is good. It's not, they're difficult discussions about what has happened in our history, but we still need to talk about it. Now, my least favorite subject in the whole world was history, and I didn't do well in it. But I know that our teachers know what needs to be taught. I don't believe that they are grooming students that I have seen several times in social media recently. I think what is being taught in our school needs to be taught in our school because it simply is history.
Thank you. Candidate Mansky?
Till about 2 years ago, 99% of the general public had no idea what critical race theory was or had ever heard of it. It's been co-opted by a number of individuals. If you look back to the history of critical race theory in the 70s and 80s, it was designed as a legal framework to talk about systematic racism in the law, in structures. It was taught at the graduate level. It was taught in college. I studied a little bit when it was in my PhD program at Madison. Critical race theory in that regard, in that definition, is not being taught and will never be taught in elementary schools, in secondary schools. It won't be. What the conversation has turned into is any conversation about racism or diversity or inclusion is critical race theory, and that is not the case. So if we can separate what critical race theory actually is and what some people think it is, they're two different things. And so we can have those conversations, but they're two different conversations. So when we talk about critical race theory as a framework, as a term, it is not going to be in the K-12 instruction. When we talk about equity, diversity, inclusion, racism, oppression, that should be in the curriculum of our K-12.
Thank you. Candidate Sommers?
Anytime that, so CRT, just asking for the mere definition, I agree with Mr. Mansky that it is the connection of law and racism and how they intersect. So that's the definition of it. So if that is being taught in elementary, middle, or high school, we have really, really smart kids. However, as Mr. Mansky alluded to, that there has been a national conversation about CRT being in education, not post high school. And so whenever there are questions or quandaries in relation to what is being taught, I think there has to be transparency. So if we have transparency in the education that we are teaching, then the illusion, per se, would be removed. So if it is the conversation about other things, of oppression or racism or those other comments, well then, of course, then that conversation also has to take place in the schools. But there's a very true reality that we have to have curricular transparency in order to shine the light into what some are alleging to be darkness.
Thank you. Candidate Campos?
Yeah, this has been a hot topic, and I never knew what CRT was until I ran for the school board. So I cannot define it. I have spent countless hours reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to the news. I think a lot of the animosity that comes from CRT is the stuff that you hear in the news. So do I fault people for being against CRT or possibly being misunderstanding what it is? No, I do not. I am very open to listening to people's opinion because the reality is 90% of us get our information from some sort of a news media outlet. We have to. And by talking to your neighbors and to your friends and everything like that. So it's a really very hot topic. I'm not well versed in it. Like I said, I'm learning a lot about it right now. It does seem to be a framework that other things fall out of and that people seem to think is built into our curriculum. And echoing what Alex had said, if there are things that are being discussed that parents may feel uncomfortable with, I think transparency and openness with what is being discussed, if it may be even remotely associated to CRT, is how you defeat and break down some of the barriers with parents. If they don't understand it, if they think there's some level of secrecy being held by teachers in this regard, or if they're only getting their information from left-wing or right-wing media sources, things are going to get lost in translation and people are going to default to a safe zone. And we need transparency to really understand what CRT is. It's a volatile word, and if it's not that volatile, then I think we need to make a concerted effort to explain what it is and what it isn't.
Thank you. Candidate Ebel?
Yes, I know very little about critical race theory, other than what I managed to look up, which was not very much at all. But I do know this, that it is not taught in our school district, nor has it ever been taught. And as far as I know, again, because it is a graduate class course, it's never going to be taught in the public school. It is a red herring, however, because it has got a lot of people up in arms about something. They don't know what, but they're up in arms about something. So it's been more of a distraction than anything. As far as transparency in curriculum, I would be surprised if anyone couldn't get more detail about what is being taught in school than they would ever care to know by contacting the school district. All that information is available out there. So we have plenty of transparency, and because of the internet age, all that stuff you can access from your home computer, and you can find out what they're teaching your children. Just ask them.
Thank you. Candidate Robbie?
I've said before, and I guess I'll repeat, I think few people know what critical race theory is, and the people who are talking the most about it probably know the least about it. In general, critical race theory is that racism is integrated and systematic in the laws and norms of our society. I think there's lots of proof to that. I believe in the foundation of critical race theory. I also believe to a certain degree it is taught in school, because I'm sure that there are high school students, maybe middle school students all over the country who are now coming to school and asking their teacher, what is critical race theory? Because there's so much discussion about it, and a good teacher is probably saying, hey, this is what it is, and this is why you're hearing about it. But that's probably the extent of it at the elementary, middle school, high school level. Critical race theory, in my opinion, is just it's one of those things that the certain people feel that the liberal educators are trying to slip into into the classrooms and into the curriculum, along with other issues. And as a long time administrator, curriculum developer, I never got the secret handshake. I don't know what all those secret things are that we're trying to slip in because they never taught me them, so I must have looked kind of foolish. But I think that's it. I think it's more talk than there is action on it, and I agree with Jennifer. Let's talk less about it and get on to, the core of teaching, and also, answering kids' questions about critical race theory. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to the next question. For current incumbents, do you support the creation of the EDI coordinator? For both incumbents and non-incumbents, would you support continuing to invest funds in positions like that, even in the face of possible budget deficits? And for this one, we will start with candidate Portson.
I absolutely supported the hiring of our 2 EDI specialists. It was important. It was driven, I think, predominantly by a board member, Ann Bang, who pointed out the need for some of that extra training. And it was unanimously approved by our board. And they're already doing great things. There was a nice article in the paper about that program. The kids are commenting that they feel good after they get to talk to Gigi because she understands them and she listens to them. And that's her job. If any of you have ever been teachers, you know that your job is not just to teach the kids. It's to make sure they've been fed, make sure they're not in pain, make sure they're safe. There's a million things that go on every single day. So I definitely support it and will continue to support the EDI position.
Thank you. Candidate Mansky?
One of the first items I voted on as a new board member in early 2021 was the EDI coordinator position, and I was in full support of it. And I remember telling superintendent during the meeting, I said, this is a great position. This is a good start. This is a great way to begin the process. I was on the search committee that actually did the interviews. We had a community-based group that did the interviews for the EDI coordinators. And unfortunately, we lost Sam Dinga here. We are at the university here, but we need this. We need to devote time and resources into this. It is important for our students to be listened to have a voice, to have someone to talk to. We need our community members and our teachers and our staff to have this resource. It is well worth the money that we are spending, and I hope we commit more to it.
Thank you. Candidate Sommers?
Looking at the EDI position, I understand that there was a push from the board for this. My question is, when we are facing a budgetary crisis of large amounts, is spending $200,000+ on an EDI position the best call right now? I hear yes from my colleagues up here. My question is, if that $200,000 would have been invested into additional paraprofessionals in the classroom to assist the teachers, or to provide ongoing training to our staff if this is what our district needs. What are the measures of success? What are the outcomes that we're looking for? Are they measurable? Do we have evidence that can show that this is showing success? And right now, as a community member, I have not seen any of those measures of success. I've not seen that laid out. I've read the school board minutes. I've tried to go on the website and find that information. That's not laid out. So for me, is right now the best time for this? And my question is, when we have a budgetary crisis, is right now the best time to be devoting our funds to that, or should we be ensuring that our students are able to learn our basic core of education, math, science, reading, those types of things?
Thank you. Candidate Campos?
Thanks. I'm not completely familiar with the EDI or DEI coordinators yet. I'm a person that does not make decisions until I understand data and understand positions. That said, I literally have a meeting in 2 days with both coordinators to actually understand what it is they do. I do echo a little bit of what Summer says completely because I am a financial guy. I need to understand what it is they're doing. I also understand that when this position came about, it was in amid COVID. We have a lot of people suffering from mental health issues. We have a lot of learning loss. When I look at $200,000 plus, and I look at the potential for a lot of part-time educational assistants and possible counselors to help our students catch up and through one of the darkest times in my life as far as COVID is concerned, I think, in my opinion right now, knowing very little and having not talked to Sam and Gigi, that I probably would have spent the money to get educational assistance, to help the teachers, and to get more counseling for our students, given the circumstances. Doesn't mean I can't change my mind in the future, but again, until I fully understand what EDI is, what the EDI coordinators are doing, and understand the measures of success, which I'll know pretty soon, I don't have a strong opinion on it yet. I need to understand everything. I'm not going to comment completely on something I know very little about.
Thank you. Candidate Ebel?
If you have not met Sam and Gigi, I strongly encourage you to do so. They are two very impressive individuals, and we are very fortunate to have them in our school district. And great to hear that you are reaching out and meeting with them. Our mission for the school district says to prepare all students to be successful. That means all students. We have found out, or we are realizing, that there are those that are left behind. There are quite a number of people that are left behind from the system, partially because of COVID, but they were also being left behind before. And we have made many strides. We have invested a lot of money in the district to provide the education that these marginalized students need. We have the Charles Fernandez Center, we have the experiential learning, the Point of Discovery School, and now we are including the equity, diversity, and inclusion in our programming. When you talk to Sam, you understand that this is not about race, it's not about gender, it's not about color, it is about treating people fairly and finding out what they need, meeting students where they're at, and providing the resources and the support that they need to be successful.
Thank you. Candidate Robbie?
My master's thesis was on the correlation between self-concept and student achievement. And I can tell you it wasn't a great paper, but it certainly showed that there was a direct correlation, positive correlation between self-concept and student achievement. And we also know that the students who are marginalized, their student achievement, their self-concept is lower. And therefore, we also know that students who are marginalized have more difficulty achieving success in school, academic success in school. So yes, I think if we are able to work with students and help them feel more comfortable and accepted in school, it will have direct impact on academic achievement. But more important than that, I would have supported this position just because I think we need it. And I think we need it because I'm in the community and I've seen the angst that's caused regarding teaching diversity, inclusion, and equity, which are the foundations of our country. And if there's that much angst about, we certainly need more education about it as well. In terms of the finance, the financial picture of our district is so important because when we start doing cuts, and I've been involved in doing cuts in school districts, massive cuts in school districts, and it's a bloodbath, and everything is on the table. So that is why it's so important. We're trying to keep not only this program, but all the other supportive programs for our teachers and our staff. And so we're going to find other ways of getting resources for our district so that these great programs, all our great programs, are not under the knife. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bushman?
So in my day-to-day role, my professional life, I'm oftentimes asked to look at budgets and cut. And that makes you not a popular person. And so regarding the continued funding, I like to understand, just because I was not part of those closed-door conversations and I'm not a member of the board, what plans we had to sustain the funding going forward. And so, alluding to what some of the folks have set up here, what are the success measures for those roles? What are the outcomes we're looking to achieve? And is it too premature right now to say, without data, given that these are newly created roles, that this is the right solve for the problem? We don't know that yet. I think in speaking with teachers, a lot of them feel really good. I've talked to teachers that are big time proponents of these coordinator positions, and they still can't tell me exactly what these two individuals do. And no fault on their own. I think we need to do a better job in the district to share all of this information so that there's clarity. What are we trying to achieve? What do these roles do? What do they not do? And if anyone says that they want to continue funding right now without these data points, I think it's just very premature. Given the the spending trajectory and the budget deficit situation that we're in, we've got to be very judicious. I mean, ruthless prioritization. I tell that to my team all of the time when we look at the budget in my professional life.
Thank you. We will move on to the next question. Do you or did you support measures like mask mandate and vaccine mandates in public schools? Would you support dedicating funds to update ventilation and filtration, not only to mitigate COVID-19 and the variants, but other airborne pathogens such as the common cold? For this one, we will start with candidate Mansky. Yes.
Is that a question? No.
I forgot where I left off last time, but
It's me.
Yes.
I did support the mask mandate. I supported, I joined the board after everything was already in place. We had already delegated the responsibility to the superintendent, but I did support that decision. I did support keeping the masks as a requirement within the school district. Support for additional funding for ventilation.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, if we can show the science behind it, absolutely. I think that's an important criteria, and I don't know the level of the referendums that we had for the funding for the new buildings, but I believe there was ventilation that was part of that, but I couldn't tell you specifically. Some schools more than others, so I would be in support of that because we need to continue to keep our kids safe, and the masks kept kids safe. It kept them in the classrooms. And it kept our students and our staff and our teachers and our community healthier. I got plenty of time left, but I mean, that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Did you lose track? I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Candidate Summers?
Whenever it came, so as a teacher, our district had mask optional, and we had students that chose to or chose not to. And we stayed in school the whole time. We did this last year and this year. And we had mask optional. And it was student's choice as well as parental choice. Same thing with the vaccines that you had mentioned. It should be up to the doctor and their patient. Schools don't have a place in the medical profession. That we're not doctors, we're teachers, we're educators. When it comes to keeping our students safe, of course, I encourage when we have sicknesses to make sure that we are staying safe and healthy. But that also includes our mental health. So I do know that we did have some of our students, at least in our district, that it was causing anxiety for them. So we have to look at the whole student if we are truly being equitable, that it has to be a choice for people, because there are reasons that we have to be aware of as well if we truly want to be inclusive of everyone. We have to make sure that ventilation and all those things, that we're doing as much as we can to keep them safe. But on both sides, there are data points, and so for me, it would be optional to the student and the parent.
Thank you. Candidate Campos?
Yes, I am a supporter of student and parental choice. Now, I will say that I am supportive of the rollout of what the school board did initially. I mean, no one knew This could have been the bubonic plague for all we knew. So I definitely appreciate that, and they rolled it out very, very quickly, almost too quickly. But so I can appreciate that. They were definitely concerned for our children. But I probably shortly thereafter, once we instigated or installed the schooling from home, and it became a national nightmare, and one of the most divisive topics ever in history of my life anyways, I would have moved to making masks optional, and I will always be for vaccines optional. And there's really nothing more depthful than that for me to say about it.
Thank you. Candidate Ebel?
We didn't really delegate the authority to the superintendent because the superintendent really had the authority all along. The superintendent is responsible for the safety of the kids and the staff in our school district. We clarified that he had the authority to call the shots as he saw fit. He was in touch with the medical professionals on almost a daily basis for almost 2 years, understanding what was going on nationally, what was going on in the state, what was going on in the community. And he made the best call that he could with the information that he had. I absolutely supported his decisions, and I will continue to do so. I know we did invest money in ventilation, in HVAC systems in schools with the recent capital improvements that we made. And if there are some facilities that show inadequate ventilation, I would definitely support updating those. And again, I support the decisions he made. I think they were educated and well-founded. And he kept our schools open, where most of the schools in the state were shutting down.
Thank you. Candidate Robbie?
I was a superintendent during the onset of COVID in another district, and I was certainly strongly in favor of mask mandates. Honestly, we were scared to death in terms of administration, in terms of protecting our teachers and protecting our students. Everybody here had a personal interaction with COVID too, and that impacts the way they feel about masks. For me, my grandson had a lung transplant, so if he were to get ill with COVID, he would have died. So yeah, my family, we were big maskers for personal reasons. In terms of the ventilation system, I don't know anything about ventilation. I always talk to some other guy named Bob about it or something. But I can tell you that I would have questions about revamping an entire school district. I would like to know what the impact is going to be, the positive impact, and what the cost is going to be. I'd also remind people regarding, I think someone in one of the movies with all the dinosaurs says, nature will find a way. Well, kids find a way. So I don't care what you do, you know, even with the masking, if you actually go through the buildings, it means half on and half off. And kids are going to get sick because they're going to spread their germs because that's what children do. And I'm not sure we'll do anything that we're going to completely stop that. But I think it's reasonable for a school district to take precautions to protect the people that work there and to protect children. And unfortunately, it was much more controversial than what any of us wanted, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bushman?
So it's really easy for me. I'm mask optional, I'm vaccine optional, and regarding funding for ventilation systems, again, without knowing what the cost would be, how many buildings needed, I think it's premature for me to say that. I would be in favor, but it would be dependent upon the data that needs to be presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Portson?
I supported the mask mandate, and I will continue to do that. I believe it's our responsibility to protect every student in our classrooms, not just one or two. We relied on the medical professionals and science, and those people said masks help. Didn't say that cured it, but masks help. Like Dennis, I have a grandson who has this syndrome, Smith-Magenis syndrome, if you ever want to, if you can't sleep some night and want to read about it, and type 1 diabetes. His doctor said if he got COVID, he's likely to die. So our family as well. We did everything in our power, including getting as many people vaccinated as we could in our family so that we could be around him. So I will continue to, hopefully this thing is on its last legs. It's not going to go away, but hopefully we don't have any more surges.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the next question, not the last question, sorry. So we've seen efforts by school districts in this state and in others to ban books and even ban curricular content. Do you support measures like these, and how would you respond as teacher to parents who would like this content removed from the curriculum? Yes. So we've seen efforts by school districts to ban books and curricular content that support certain issues or just in general. Do you support measures to ban that content or ban certain content? And how would you respond to parents who seek to ban that content? And Candidate Summers, you can start whenever you are ready.
So when looking at banning books, I don't think that books should be banned. I think there are age-appropriate levels for certain books. So you're not going to read Mouse. It's a book about World War II. You're not going to read this book in elementary school. It's far too graphic for an elementary student. So there are age-appropriate levels for certain books. I'm not pro-banning books. That seems ridiculous with an English degree. I want people to read. I want people to be educated. So, but there has to be age-level appropriate books. So whenever you're looking at books or material in general for the classroom, those materials in the classroom should be age-appropriate to the level that they're teaching. They shouldn't be above the level that they're teaching. They should be at the age-appropriate level. Moreover, we, as the state of Wisconsin, have laws that say that parents have the right to opt out of certain things in the curriculum. So that parental choice, once again, is an option or an alternative to something that might be questionable for a family because of whatever reason. So having that parental choice, as well as not banning books, but having age-appropriate level books in the classroom or in the curriculum.
Thank you. Candidate Campos?
Yes, I do not support the banning of any books. I am an avid reader. I love reading. I think most of my intelligence has come from reading on my own. So I definitely would never support banning of books. However, I do understand that there are people out there for one reason or another don't like certain things being discussed for one reason or another. Like I said in my opening statements, you know, everybody has a story. I don't know their story. I've not yet read their book. There may be, I do know that we've got a lot of Afghan refugees that are going to be coming to the community soon. I would assume, and maybe incorrectly, that they are of the Muslim faith. And I can respect the fact that, at least initially, they may have to adjust to the society that they live in here in America, and there may be some things that they don't want discussed. And I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that parental choice is important, transparency is important. We have such a dynamic society, and I understand and respect that not everybody thinks the way that I do. Not everybody thinks the way that everybody in the audience thinks, and we do have to respect that. I do think that we should teach respect, kindness, and tolerance, absolutely. But I think that parents do have a right to understand and opt out. I've talked with quite a few teachers on this subject, English teachers, and they have agreed to some extent that having the transparency is the key to avoiding some of these conversations that can get nasty with parents. So if I'm having a difficult conversation with a parent, just being transparent with them, sometimes bringing them to the table and explaining what my intent is and giving them options may end up diffusing this situation in the future, and we get to a point where nobody thinks about banning books.
Thank you. Candidate Ebel?
Well, I agree with Mr. Campos and Mr. Summers. I am totally against banning books. However, again, I do agree that parents should have a say in what their children are reading and seeing. And they do. You will get noticed if there's anything that might be controversial being taught in class. You'll be notified, and you have the option to review that and see if you think it's appropriate for your child. And if whatever your belief is, you believe that it's not appropriate, you can opt out. That does not release you from having to get credit for that class. But again, people have choices. So no, absolutely, I do not agree with banning books. And I also agree that parents should have a say in really what their children are exposed to.
Thank you. Candidate Robbie.
I'd like to discuss content just a little bit. These are interesting times. It is my opinion that the restrictions and banning of content in school is a political decision to curry votes for the most part. For example, just this past week, I believe, Florida passed legislation to restrict the teaching of issues related to sexuality and gender. Florida also is attempting to or has passed legislation restricting teaching of groups that have been oppressed. There are legislators in our own state who share the beliefs that we should restrict content like that in our public schools. I am totally against that, and I think it's, it's really unfortunate, because what we're really trying to say is that certain things, certain people aren't to be accepted in public schools. We can't even talk about them. If a third grade child has two moms and comes to school and people are picking them on, the teacher wants to address it, they can't address it because that is so abnormal, it can't even be taught in third grade. In terms of banning books, no, I don't. I think the only purpose for banning books is if you want the book to be more popular. Mouse was banned in certain schools and it became the most popular. The author said, thank you. I've never sold as many books before. But parents also have the right to say, hey, I don't like this book. I'm not happy with it. There's a process in every school district I've been associated with to bring up a book and have it discussed by administration, teachers, parents, and make a decision on it. So I think that's appropriate.
Thank you. Candidate Bushman.
I am not in favor of banning any books. In fact, I think we were called book banners at one moment, and that surprised me because I've never been a fan of banning any kind of books. I also have a minor in English, and so I appreciate literature. Kind of like everyone else has said, parents, and they do, should have the opportunity to opt out of content or books should they choose. That's what we currently allow, so nothing different. And so as long as we do that and we ensure that they have that opportunity to opt out, I don't see any issues. I love my library.
Thank you. Candidate Portson.
I also am against banning books. I love books. I read a lot, but I like real books. I don't like to read from my Kindle or iPad. I agree, and by law, parents have the right to find out what's being taught in their schools. Our curriculum is available, as Jeff mentioned earlier. The teachers would welcome you to ask questions about it. We recently had a situation in the district, and I believe that when the letter was sent home saying this is going to be what the topics are going to be, the parent didn't read that notice. And then it blew up. Well, that's not anything we can control. If our parents aren't reading the things that are coming home, that's not on us.
Thank you. Candidate Mansky.
I think we're 7 for 7 with no banning of books, so that's a pretty good thing, right? I think that's the thing we've most agreed on across the board. I am also not in support of banning books. I really do think that we are in a time of a lot of transparency when it comes to our curriculum. I mean, really, just think back 10, 15, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have this much understanding of what's going on in the classroom. Now you know. And if you don't know, you ask. And so in this situation, and if it's something that you, as a parent, object to, you can opt out. I hope that you don't, but you can. So, when we talk about these undercurrents of this manipulation and hiding of curriculum, it's not happening. All you got to do is ask. And I think that our district has done a very good job. The EDI coordinators have helped out with that. I've talked with Sam. And Sam says, when parents have a question or concern, after I talk to them for 10 minutes, they feel better. And that's one of the purposes of the EDI coordinator. And that's why we as a district have been very transparent about the whole process.
Thank you. For the sake of time, we will not ask the last question and instead move into closing statements where you'll each have 1 minute. We will start on this end with candidate Campos.
Thanks. I'd like to say thank you to Sarah, the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, and UWSP Gender Sexuality Alliance for hosting tonight's event. I appreciate the invite. We'll close with this. Everyone up here cares about our children. Everyone up here is qualified to lead this board and direct the future of education in this district. And I respect that about everyone up here. We may disagree about a lot of things. We may argue about the ways in which we reach an end goal of the best education. But rest assured, all of us care about our children's future, and I will fight incessantly to ensure our district is fair to everyone, transparent in all its endeavors, fiscally responsible, and endlessly accountable to our parents, the taxpayers, the teachers, and above all, our children. None of us are here for any other reason, and I have two amazing children in this district to serve as my guiding light every waking hour towards achieving this goal. Thank you all again, and I would appreciate your vote Tuesday, April 5th.
Thank you. Candidate Ebel.
Again, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your interest in the school board elections coming up here. I have served on the board for 9 years, and it has been very rewarding. It has not been easy. They say it's a thankless job, but I really can't agree with that. I have had very good support from the community, and people have been very appreciative of the work that I have put in along with my other school board members. We have made some incredible achievements over the last 3 to 5 years, particularly regarding funding, regarding upgrading all of our facilities, our staff training. Again, I could go on for quite some time on some of the great accomplishments that we have realized in the last few years. The board does not agree on everything, nor should it. We have a very diverse board with a diversity of opinions, backgrounds, skill sets, perspectives, but we know how to discuss an issue, and we know how to take a vote, and whether you win or lose, you get on with and support the district, you support the direction that the majority of the board chose to do. So again, I appreciate you being here, and thank you very much, and I would very much like your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Robbie.
I'd like to focus a little bit on the candidates running for the school board. Most certainly, we don't all share the same perspective on public education and the path forward for our local school district. That's why we're running in opposition to each other. What we do have in common is that we are participants in the most bizarre, crazy, and negative local election cycle any of us can recall. I don't blame any of my opponents, and I hope they don't blame me. Nobody running for office or for elected officials should be disrespected, yet it seems to be the norm during the past several years, if not longer. In truth, we've each been judged unfairly by people who don't know us. We've each been singed by words of others. And I'm not claiming that I have not personally judged others unfairly, and I'm not claiming that I've always chose my words carefully. I haven't. However, tonight I want to thank each candidate for the courage to run, and I hope that the winners of this election will be great caretakers of our public school district. I hope the public will give each of you the respect that is warranted for those who choose to run and to serve. I know each of the candidates before you, all of us, are counting down the days until election is over, It's been an interesting, if not pleasant, experience running for the board. If I am elected, I'll do my very best to be a great school board member and to take care of our public schools and our public educators and our students and families. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bushman.
I think that's the perfect word to describe this election as bizarre. Absolutely. I want to thank the university and the Alliance and all the members here for your time today. I think the beauty of this election is that there are 4 open seats, and this is a non-partisan election. So regardless of the 2 slates that you continue to see and the different parties that are endorsing each of these slates, the beauty is you can mix and match your votes as you should choose. And I do encourage everyone, since this is a nonpartisan election, to look beyond the party line. The danger in not doing so is that you may not pick someone that's best fit for a role based on character and experience and merit and qualifications. And so I would be honored to have your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Portson.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all for being here tonight. I think the one thing I'd like to leave you with is those of you who are students, we want you to stay here. We want you to raise your children here and go to our public schools. And we want to keep that school district at the top level, at the highest level we can be. And if elected, if re-elected, I'm going to continue advocating for our families, for our teachers, and for our kiddos. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mansky.
We have a fantastic school district. We have fantastic teachers, we have dedicated staff, and our students are learning. We have things that we need to improve on, absolutely. We have objectives that we need to complete. We have a fantastic school district. I forgot to mention in the beginning, I have 4 kids. 3 of them are still in the school district. One of them has made it all the way through and now is here. He's not in this room. I was thinking maybe he would be, but he's not. He's a student here. I'm not advocating to be on the board because only because I have 4 kids that have gone through the school district. I'm not advocating it because I have 2 biracial kids and I want to serve all students. I'm saying it because I'm passionate about education, I'm passionate about students, and I'm passionate about giving every student an opportunity to be successful. And that's why I want to continue on the school board.
Thank you. Candidate Summers.
As has been echoed by everyone here, I appreciate the time that all of you have taken out of your evenings to join us and listen to us. A lot of times there is a lack of listening, but a lot of judging. So I appreciate you at least listening to us and hearing our different points of view. Through listening, we can understand the value that each of us place in education. For some of us, it's been since they've been 4, doing public education. And others of us, it's been later on in life. But no matter what, education is the foundation that makes America the way it is. With education, our students can achieve amazing things. Education that allows us to move to different places, though of course we want everyone to stay here, but to move to new heights that they never imagined. We as a board, we as teachers, we as parents, we as community members, all have an influence on our students. And that influence needs to be realized. So as a board member, I will continue to advocate for our students, our community, and our local community to be able to continue to be involved in our education and to know the value that we all place in education. I, as a teacher, understand that value intrinsically. And so I thank you all for listening to us, and I hope that I get your vote on April 5th.
Thank you. That concludes closing statements and everything from the school board candidates, so thank you all. Thank you for coming, to all the candidates for sharing your platforms with us today. Thank you to Sarah for organizing this with coordination with the GSA. And thank you. And yeah, everyone have a wonderful night. That is how it